Hello, and welcome to TRIA Talks, where engaging conversations with fascinating people happen. I'm your host, Trina Hiscock. From changemakers to risk takers, entrepreneurs to artists, in this series of talks, I sit down for an informal one-on-one with some of the most inspiring individuals we meet and interact with every day on the TRIA life journey. We'll exchange ideas, unearth insights, and reveal interesting stories while sharing a few laughs along the way. We never know where the conversation will take us, but the journey is always worth it. Hello, everyone. Welcome to TRIA Talks on this gorgeous Wednesday, December 2nd. Thank you for all of you that are tuning in live today. It's so great to have you here. And I'm also very excited to introduce you to my two guests, very special guests joining us from Saskatchewan, Dwain and Hannah Lingenfelter of CypressView Land and Cattle Corporation. Welcome to TRIA Talks, you guys.
Well, great to be here, Trina, and thank you for the invite. I haven't seen you since Toronto a year and a half ago or a couple of years ago, and after COVID, we'll get together again soon, I'm sure.
Yes, I hope so.
Nice.
Go ahead, Hannah.
I said it's very nice of you to have us. Thank you.
So our listeners know that you run CypressView Ranch, and Hannah, it's so lovely to meet you and learn about how you are following in your dad's footsteps and becoming a farmer yourself. We're going to talk about that and ask you some questions regarding that decision in a little bit on the show. So it's really great to have you both here. And as Dwain, you said, we met at the OP Trust Climate Change Symposium where you were a speaker back in November 2018, and we've kept in touch ever since. Now, our listeners know, of course, about your work with CypressView Land, or some of them do, and we're going to get into more of that. But first, can you just tell me a little bit, both of you, about the important work that you're doing with the Nature Conservancy of Canada?
Well, the Nature Conservancy of Canada, of course, is one of the big three environmental groups in Canada. That includes the Nature Conservancy, the Canadian Wildlife Federation, and Ducks Unlimited. They're the ultra power behind conservation and new ideas and concepts in how to manage the soil, the land, preserve the flora and fauna of our great nation. And we were fortunate enough to be approached by the Nature Conservancy to put an easement on our ranch in the Cypress Hills. And we now work in conjunction with scientists, the Department of Environment, the Nature Conservancy, and ranchers in the area to protect the ranch land, to grow it, to make sure the microbes in the soil are growing properly, and that we're sequestering as maximum amount of CO2 from the air that is possible in a sustainable manner.
Yeah, so I find that really fascinating. And so let's talk about that a little bit more, because you're doing really critical, important work in terms of the way you're growing food in both a sustainable and regenerative manner. So what does the shift to this renewable food production mean for the earth, for the climate, and also for the future of farming? Can you dive into that a little bit?
Well, Tribe, one of the things that COVID-19 has brought about is an interest and fascination in food production and local production, and also climate change and what farmers, food producers can do, not only to reduce the amount of carbon that they're putting into the air and the CO2 they're putting in the air, but how can we do a better job of extracting CO2 from the atmosphere? And it's an interesting story because the fact is the soil that we use across Canada in our farming operations, and really everywhere, even in the cities, in your lawns, in the grass that grows along the freeways, these are actually massive carbon sinks that, if done properly, not only can we reduce the amount of carbon we use in our process, but we can extract carbon from the air. And that's done by rotation of crops, zero till operations, and practicing good farming practices that has increased the amount of carbon we can store in our soil by up to 100% through our modern farming practices.
So, I mean, being a multi-generational, farming business, you must have seen a lot of change and evolution getting to this point in your career.
Well, I don't know if I can explain it in a easy enough manner, but when I was growing up, we used to seed only half of our farm. Half was summer followed and kept black throughout the summer, and half was seeded. Since that time, we've learned that was killing the microbes in the soil by keeping it in fallow. We now grow crops every year. At that time, we grew only wheat, which is a monoculture. And so that wasn't the right way to do. We now rotate our crops in a rotation where we maximize the amount of plant and organic matter in the soil. So the percentage of organic matter has increased from 1% to 3%, or a 300% increase. And along with that increase, the amount of CO2 that is attracted from the air and stored in our soils. And it's a phenomenal change that really is for the betterment of the environment.
That's absolutely so wonderful to hear. Now, Hannah, I want to introduce our audience to you now for a few minutes. I'm going to take the spotlight off you for a minute here, Dwain, and focus on your wonderful daughter. Hannah, you're at a very young age, I believe 19, please, if I'm correct. Can you tell me when you first wanted to become a farmer?
Well, as long as I can remember, that's for sure. It's I've the same as Dad. Have had lots of generations in my family that's farmed, so it's always been a discussion. And just growing up, every morning we woke up, we went outside, we did some work. We always had the opportunity to farm, and opportunity meant going outside and working. So I always knew it was something I wanted to have a part in. And as our company has let us come in and get ready for the transition, it's been very interesting to learn and know what's coming for us.
Right. Now, so you're a young farmer, and I think this is really exciting. I'm sure you make your dad quite proud to know that you are also going into farming, but I believe you're starting your own farm as well. And what has that been like in terms of financing and just trying to get this business off the ground, especially at such a young age?
Yes, absolutely. Financing is the biggest obstacle when it comes to starting out farmers, because it is just at some points it can get really expensive to buy land. And we are so fortunate to have Farm Credit Canada, which is a federal crown corporation. And so, yeah, they're funded with the federal government, and they have amazing programs set up for not only young farmers, but female entrepreneurs and even more programs. And they offer excellent financing to start out. And I'm also equally as lucky to have my corner and backing me up to help me, because that's what we do, and that's something that we appreciate doing, is starting out young farmers and giving them the opportunity of financing, as well as offer the training and the co-management that can be needed when you're starting out.
Well, I think you're an incredible example to your younger demographic, taking on the importance of food and farming, such a, resource, an incredible resource that we all need in our daily lives. And I hope that we can help in any way to promote young farmers as well, like yourself. What type of farming are you looking to pursue?
Well, as the company modernizes and farming modernizes, there's really all kinds of things to consider. And that's definitely not something I want to close doors on ever. I'm really open to all sorts of farming. And yeah, as things go on, I'd very much love to do organic and micro farming, cattle, grain, the whole works.
Amazing. I just love it so much. It's so great. We're going to ask you a couple more questions soon, but maybe Dwain, you can answer this, or Hannah, you can answer this. What do you think right now is the greatest challenge facing the farming sector in Western Canada?
Well, probably Hannah would have a different answer than I have, but my opinion is that financing remains one of the big issues for expansion of farming. The other is the whole environmental issue, and that is the lack of understanding between the farming community and the consumer who consumes the food we produce. And I think there's
Right.
this image that farming is bad for the environment, when in fact, the farmers that I know and the farming community that work with the Canadian Wildlife Federation and the Nature Conservancy are really doing the heavy lifting to improve the climate and also to clean the air by managing the soils of our great country in the proper manner. And if I had one wish, it was that there was better dialogue between the consumer of the food we produce, which is obviously the best in the world, and just an understanding and a teaching process where we can learn from the urban people what they want through traceability of our food and knowing where the origins are, and the urban people who consume the food better understanding what it's like to work and produce food 365 days a year.
Yeah, I think you really hit the nail on the head there. It is all about lack of understanding and communication. So it's why it's just another great reason why it's wonderful to have you here with us on TRIA Talks. And I know we're planning to do a series of these because we really do want to educate people. And I want to be more educated myself, even on this topic and its importance. Now, when it comes to Canada's agriculture sector, what role does international trade play?
Well, the amount of farm products produced in Canada is about close to 7% of Canada's gross domestic product, and employs about 12% of all the people who work in Canada. So it's huge what it does for the economy. And as you know, we're a relatively small population, so a large percentage of what we grow in Western Canada actually goes into the international market. If you're talking about lentils, peas, chickpeas, they go largely into India and the Middle East. The
Right.
wheat, we're major shipments into China right now. So it's a very important part of our balance of trade when it comes to our exports and imports. One of the areas that we need to do a better job is in the manufacture of farm equipment, because the largest percentage is now imported from the United States, and we'd obviously like to see more of that done here in Canada.
Right, right. And so we're living in challenging times right now. What are we, 10, 11 months into this pandemic? And, you know, it's challenging times for all Canadians, but can you give us some insight as to the challenges that you've been experiencing because of the pandemic with respect to CypressView? How has it affected you, your workers, your co-workers, your staff, how you manage the staff? Have you had to like make some changes in how the farming has been run on a day-to-day basis? And where do you see, like, will some of those changes have to be implemented for future?
Well, one of the areas that, on the positive side, that this whole pandemic has brought about is a better understanding of food and why it's important to grow locally versus importing from other parts of the world. That reducing the length of the food chain by growing more of it locally is truly important. On our own farm, some of our partners that we co-manage with use labor from other parts of the world, and that's more difficult, obviously, with the bringing people from mainly from Europe and Latin America into the farming area, and that's mostly true, I think, in Ontario with some of the vegetable growing areas more than in the grain sector. And also, we have some of our group that farm in the United States. So, moving people across the international boundary is much more difficult than it was in the past. And we have to learn to live with that. And we're managing, but it makes it more complicated for sure.
Yeah. So these are all points that you can, take now, Hannah, to prepare if something were to happen like this again, or also just as you move forward into planning what your farming is going to be like in terms of a day-to-day run business, I'm sure. Where do you see yourself in, say, the next 5 years and then even 25 years out in terms of farming? Because your dad's been in this business for so long. Can you what's your dream in terms of how you see your legacy then moving on and carrying on?
Well, just like my dad said, how with everything that's been happening, people are becoming more aware about where your food is coming from. And there's been more of a spotlight on the importance of growing your own produce and everything in your own country, so we get rid of that international problems that we can face. And I think for me, that's something that's really important to me is moving with that and knowing that we can grow that kind of stuff here. And on our operation, we'd perfectly be capable to. And that's something that we are going to want to eventually phase into. And especially with the five of us kids, we are on the advisory committee and we are constantly looking for new ideas for renewable energy, geothermal, solar, wind. And that's something that we really are all passionate about. And that's something I would love to see come to light in the next few years. And the one of the big ones is obviously growth. We definitely want to see the company expand and all of our personal parts expand as well. And
Mm-hmm.
just as my dad has done for us, he's kind of paved the road for us. So this generation shift is a little bit more easy to manage. That's kind of the same thing we all want to do as well. The next generation shift comes is leave it a few steps ahead, just as he's done for us.
Amazing. You must be so proud, Dwain.
Well, I'm
And you
proud of
must.
our five children who are all involved in farming in different ways. They all have their own careers, but every year as it goes by, they want to come be involved more. They are involved, but they want to get more and more involved. And I can see the day in not too distant future where they'll all be fully involved 110% in just the agricultural sector because it's so broad and so demanding that we
Right.
actually not only need the help, I mean, we couldn't do it without them.
Right. And you're one of 9 children yourself. You have 5 children and you're one of 9. Are any of your siblings as well involved in the family business?
I have a sister who farms near us, and their family is involved in co-managing farms with us as well. So our family is pretty solid in agriculture, going back 5 generations in Canada. Before that, both sides of my family farmed in the United States, and before that in Germany and Ireland. So I don't think we know a hell of a lot other than farming, Trina.
Right. It sounds, well, I'm sure you know a lot of other things too. I'm pretty sure about that. I don't think it's just farming, but so tell me then, after all this multi-generation and family members who have cultivated and worked so hard at this business, what's the secret sauce to your
Well,
success?
Hannah will tell you it's getting up early in the morning, going to work, putting your pants on one leg at a time. I mean, it's pretty simple. I think it's like success in your business or anything else. You have to have a passion for it, I think is the fundamental thing. If you have a passion for the work that you do every day, it's not work anymore. It's what you want to do. When you get up in the morning, you can't wait to get started. And I think everybody in our family has that bug to one extent or the other. Hard work, planning, having a good team of people, and a good community that is supportive of what you're trying to accomplish.
Well, I've certainly seen some photos from your farm, and they're just spectacular. Sometimes at certain times of the day when that sunlight hits the crops. It's just remarkable. And I'm coming for a visit one day, right? Like that's
You
for
have
sure.
to. That
Now,
you
when
have
you
to do.
absolutely, we're going to make that happen. We're going to do a live TRIA talks from the farm one day for sure. Now, when you say early morning, how early?
It depends. Right now, not too early.
Right.
We tend to be up 7 o'clock at this time of the year, but in the summertime, when it gets light out, it's there's no point laying around. There's always something to do, and the list never seems to go away. It just the list is always a mile long of what you can do around the farm. So we get up very early, stay up pretty late. But as I say, when you have a passion for it, it really doesn't seem like work. But I don't want to speak for him or for the kids. They may have a different opinion.
What's your answer,
I,
Hannah?
I just want to add one thing. In our family, planting trees has always been a big part of what we do. And growing trees in Saskatchewan, if you can grow trees here in the middle of the windy prairie, then you can grow almost anything. And the way my children and the way I learned how to farm was first planting trees, growing them, watering them, weeding them, and then you move on from there. But I'm sure Hannah has many stories about trees and growing trees.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's something that's always happening here, and it does take a lot of work. And like you said, that's one way to learn. It's putting in your own tree and then letting it grow, doing everything you can. But yeah, just as you said, it's really the passion. It doesn't seem like work when you're actually enjoying it. And especially in the summertime, it's very enjoyable to be outside rather than inside in an office. But
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
really the dedication. Yeah.
It's so wonderful. So, Dwain, what do you see for the next 5 years for CypressView?
Well, the transition is a big part of what we're thinking about all the time. So we meet as a group, our advisory committee, which is really my Rubiella and I and our 5 kids. We meet and talk all the time. If I have an urge at 9 at night that I have to bounce some ideas, I just push the button, get them all on the call, and we discuss any of them that are available, different issues that are happening. But I think the whole connection, the interconnectivity of agriculture and environment is what I find most exciting. And to that end, I had the honor and accepted a position on the national board of the Canadian Wildlife Federation last month on the trust. And what we're doing is working with the federal government to design a policy to better link together the environmental part of our society with agriculture and with government agencies to get the right kind of policies. Because while the farmers are doing a lot to take CO2 out of the air, first of all, it's not known to the rest of the public, and that's sad, and we need to change that. But secondly, the farmers who are doing the heaviest lifting and cleaning the air are not being commercially rewarded for doing that work. And we really need to have a proper um, CO2 and carbon emission trade where the people who are removing the carbon from the air are rewarded financially for doing it. And hopefully, with the election of the new government in the United States, I know they're much more that way inclined. We're very optimistic that the Biden Harris government will be very quickly moving to work with farmers to improve that compensation piece for the work that farming community is doing.
Well, that's so wonderful. I can't wait to hear more of that, and I hope you'll keep me up to speed on all that great work as well. And I'll certainly be watching and seeing what's happening. I think we are moving into some more optimistic times for as we transition eventually out of this pandemic, and now with a new government in the U.S. for sure. I think there's good times ahead, right? Now. I would love to play a little game with you guys. that I like to do with all of our guests. Don't be nervous. It's called This or That. So I'm going to give you a question with two answers, and you choose which one, and we'll let each of you speak, okay, for each one, and we'll get into maybe some fun conversation. But it's a great way for our viewers to get to know you, not just as the farmers and wonderful business that you're doing here in Canada, but also just on a more personal level, if you guys don't mind. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
All right, let's get started. Okay, Hannah, I'll ask you first. Horseback riding or hiking?
Hiking. I like to travel, so mountains, any kind of terrain. We love hiking.
Well, you'll have to come with me on one of my hiking trips. I like to do the summits, did Kilimanjaro already, and I've got a few others in mind. So you could come with me sometime. It's always a all-women trip. So we'll have to talk about you coming and doing a big climb with us one day. That would be great.
Never traveling, so that's amazing.
Once we get back to being able to do that again. Okay, Dwain, you, horseback riding or hiking?
Hiking 100%.
Okay. All right. Beach holiday or ski holiday? Hannah?
Beach holiday for me. Yeah. I love tropical climates, for sure, and the ocean's the most interesting thing to me in the world, so
Right.
definitely
And
beach.
you, Dwayne?
Skiing, absolutely. I have tried to do the beach thing and get very bored after the first 5 minutes.
I bet. Okay, here's one for you. Singing or dancing? You know, when you have those family gatherings, what happens? Who likes to sing and who likes to dance?
My brother likes to sing, and it's always nice when he brings out the guitar. Yeah, my brother Link.
Yes.
And yeah, I think singing for sure for me.
For me, would be dancing. You would not want to hear me sing.
Now, can you do some of those lovely, you know, your wife is from Colombia, correct? So do you know how to salsa?
No, she never taught me. And won't teach me Spanish either because she doesn't want me to know what she's saying all the time.
There you go. She's got her own secret sauce, see?
Exactly.
Okay, hard copy book or tablet, Hannah? It'd be interesting to see here the difference based on age demographic. So for you, what is it?
Hard copy book for sure. I've recently picked up book collecting, so I definitely like hard copy over tablet.
And you, Dwayne?
Hard copy for sure. I even with my computer, Rubiella has to print almost everything off for me so I can hold it in my hand and read it rather than read it off my phone.
Right, right. Yeah. There's still just something about holding a book, right? I try and do it as well on the tablet, but there's nothing like having the book in your hand. Big party or small gathering. Now, you have a large family, so for the holidays, for example, I'm not sure all your family will be getting together because of the pandemic, but what's your favorite, small gathering or big party, Hannah?
I'm a social butterfly, and so I love big gatherings and getting to know more people. So for me, it's big gatherings.
And for you,
And
Dwayne?
mine is the bigger the better. Having 25 years in politics and attending many political events, we judged everything by how big the crowd was. So I come by it very naturally.
That's great. I bet that you throw some amazing parties on that ranch of yours.
We have had some very good parties here and at our home in Calgary, and we look forward to having many more after COVID-19.
Absolutely. Well, make sure I'm on that guest list, please.
We will be.
Okay, so I'm not sure if I should even ask this now. I was going to ask early morning or late night, but I assume early morning for both of you, or maybe both.
Well, at harvest time, both. Right now, early morning, but because it's just a different time of the year. But I prefer early morning for sure.
And you, Hannah?
It's tough for me to decide. like early mornings, and then I also like staying up late and I feel like
Both.
sometimes I get the best work done late at
Right.
night. I get creative, so both.
That will change over time. Okay, football or baseball?
To watch.
For me, it would be baseball. I played football and I love the sport, but now when I'm a spectator, I much prefer the baseball stadium, hot dogs and beer when I get a chance.
Right. Well, as you know, I worked in baseball for 10 years, so it's certainly a sport that I love for sure. And then what about you, Hannah?
I think I'm going to say football because I haven't made it to too many games, but the ones I watch on TV, I like watching football a lot better than baseball on TV.
So are you a Saskatchewan like CFL fan? Is it the Rough Riders? Is that right?
Nope, I like the Stampeders.
Ah, okay.
That's tough to say in Southwest Saskatchewan,
Yep,
Hannah.
it is, I know.
All right, it's out there now. You said it. You can't take it back, girl. It's out there. Okay, tractor or truck?
Tractor for me.
Really? That's so great.
I like both, but if I had to choose, I would think probably a Dodge Ram.
So good truck. Nice big truck. Okay, favorite author or favorite character? If you could meet one, what would it be? Is it author? Who would it be, an author or your favorite TV or movie character? And maybe who would that be as well? Tell us who. Hannah?
Putting me on the spot here. It's a lot to pick from. Um, I think I would go with a TV or movie character, and perhaps Kristen Wiig. I think she's funny, and I'd like to have a good conversation with her.
Yeah, she is
What,
funny.
what,
And you,
what was the question?
favorite author or favorite character? Who would you like to meet?
Oh, there's no doubt in my mind I would want to meet Jack Nicholson, but more than that, I would want to party with him all night.
Smoke maybe a few cigars.
Exactly.
Have a good long chat. Yeah. Okay.
But,
Scotch or
but
wine?
but I want to go back to the previous one because, quite honestly, there's a writer from this part of the world. His name is Wallace Stegner, who grew up in East End and then taught in California, taught English, but a great writer about this part of the world, Wolf Willow and Big Rock Candy Mountain. If he were alive, I would love to meet him.
That's nice. Okay, so Scotch or wine?
Wine for
Or
me.
neither?
I'm going to find out here what's going on.
No, I don't.
Right, you are of legal drinking age now, though, so that's why I knew I could ask this question.
Mine depends on location. Most of the time, I prefer red wine. But if having worked around the world, there's a couple of places in the world. If I were there, I would drink Scotch.
Okay, that's great. Well, we'll have the three of us, along with your family. I'm sure we'll have a toast together at some point in time. Before we wrap up today, can you give us, maybe our viewers, I know we're going to do a series of these talks together. Dwain, can you just tell us what those series are going to be about and why we've chosen to do a series together?
Well, there's so much to talk about today. We really just scratched the surface, and what we'd like to do over time is have a program about seeding in the spring. Maybe do one when we're in the middle of our seeding program. Talk about the rotation of crops, which crops sequester more CO2 than others. We'd like to do a harvest program. And for sure, we'd like to do one with the Nature Conservancy or with the Canadian Wildlife Federation talking about the broader program of how the whole community has to get involved in this effort to have a clean and safe environment.
Yes, and I'm so looking forward to that. So I want to encourage our viewers to keep watching our social channels and sign up for our newsletters so that you can make sure to learn about the next series that we're going to be doing with CypressView Land. It has been such a pleasure to have you both here in conversation with me today, Hannah and Dwain. I can't thank you enough, and I look forward to continuing the conversation and doing this again real soon. Now, before we go, I do have to give a shout out as well to everyone that makes TRIA Talks happen every single week. And there are a lot of people behind the scenes that make sure we produce a great show every week. And that's Amplified, Carbon Zero, of course, because our virtual show is Carbon Zero certified, which is really quite amazing. And we're working with Carbon Zero Canada on that. Epic Vision, Eric Forget for photography, One King West for this beautiful set every time, Reverie Event Design, and the Fitzroy, as well as Hannah Dunn. See, it's not just me, you guys. It's a lot of people that makes all this happen. And you know what? I can't wait to talk with you two again. Let's keep in touch. And thank you again for being on TRIA Talks.
Thank you, TRIA. It's a great opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll talk soon.
Thank
Bye
you.
for now.